What's going on, guys? So today I figured I would give you guys a walk around of the work truck. This is a little bit different of a setup than most because obviously I do live full-time on the road, so what I carry is exactly what I need. I really don't have room for much extra. So with that saying, let's kind of get into it. This first cabinet, for the most part, is like my easy grab stuff. I have my mat that I just throw down on the ground. It's tremendous. It's actually a piece of foam meant for toolboxes. It was just left over, but it is great to lay on. I got my ladder, just some of the bigger easy grab stuff. I do have a 77-gallon auxiliary tank down underneath here, so that kind of takes up the whole front of the truck, at least down below the bedside. So this is like the longer things that just sit up on top of the fuel tank. So I got a couple stands for doing woodworking and whatnot when we're doing renovations. The ladder obviously to get up top, and the foam. In the back you can see I do have a small, that is a 7 1/4 inch sliding miter saw. It's big enough for 90% of what I do. There is a handful of times where I wish I had a 10 or a 12 inch, but again, as you can tell with the size, it's about the best I can get as far as feasibility to keep the tool in the truck. I used to just use some plates and whatnot from a couple different companies to get clear cuts with a regular circular saw, but with doing like herringbones and different types of things, a miter saw is kind of a necessity for those. So did that. Fan, greatest thing I've ever bought. I honestly feel that's battery powered. I get hot easy. We're in Florida and other hot climates, so that is amazing when I'm working on things, just to keep me a little bit cooler than normal. This cabinet's kind of my hardware cabinet. So in here I got drill bits, screw assortments, all of that. Behind here is another toolbox where I have all of my tapes. I have my Turnabond tapes. I have a black Gorilla tape that's also kind of like an Turnabond. It's great for underbellies. So it's great for the rare chance you have to cut into an underbelly and you can't pull the whole thing. It's awesome for that because it does seal it up really, really well. And so far I've had great luck with it sticking and not coming undone like duct tape and whatnot. I also have fuses, electrical connectors. This is a lot of the sealants and grease and whatnot that I travel with. Obviously, quite a few different types of electrical tape. Doing solar installs, sometimes you just need to be able to mark different wires with different colors. So I have a crazy assortment of electrical tapes. It's cheap, easy, and it's great for anything. And another fun fact, electrical tape actually has antibacterial stuff within the glue, so you can use it for a band-aid. Sorry for the wind, by the way, because it is kind of windy out today, but it's probably about the only halfway decent day that I'm going to have. So in the back we have extra fuel tank. That's more or less just for myself, for the generator and everything else. In here, so this top one I have majority of my wrenches and everything else. This bottom one again is all my flex heads, pliers. I do have a handful of things in a bag that is like my quick grab for the majority of my jobs, but this is for when I'm getting into more in-depth things that I'll have to grab the full toolbox. The next one is my screwdrivers. As you can tell, these unfortunately fall out. It's not the greatest system. I honestly don't really use these screwdrivers often, as I have a Klein multi-bit which I use for 90% of things. But this is where I have some pry bars, regular hammers and whatnot that I don't use on a daily basis, but I do need from time to time. And then this final one is my sockets. So obviously, as you guys can tell, majority of my tools are Snap-on. I was a mechanic prior to this, so a lot of this is obviously carryover from that. But I have everything from 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch. So far it's about everything I need, as far as ratchets and sockets that I've had to use. Very rarely do I have to go up a size from any of this. I do have a handful of random sockets for, you know, some random jobs, but this covers about most. In the back, I have another box. That's where majority of my solar install stuff is, and a little bit, you know, some tools. I have some, you know, Allen, some 12-point Allens that I don't have to use often. That's more for like the Mercedes Class A's and European style Sprinter vans and whatnot that require those tools. So those kind of stay up front because I don't have to touch them much. I do have wire and whatnot that's within the Milwaukee bags. The center case is my welder. It is a Lincoln MP210, which is a multi-process, so I have everything to do aluminum, stainless, and mild steel. I have a spool gun for the aluminum, and then I have the TIG kit, so I can do MIG, TIG, and stick, which is great when it comes to repairs and then renovations because I just enjoy it. Oil extractor. That's, you know, that device there. I have 10-ton jack stands up in the front corner. My jacks and everything else are underneath there. Those are amazing because they're tall enough. Those go up to 32 inches tall and they hold, you know, 20,000 pounds a piece. So there's not a single fifth wheel or whatnot that I can't fully support on 2 of those jacks for suspension upgrades or whatever it may be. So it's amazing to be able to jack those units up, drop it on the frame rails on both sides, and be able to work on it with zero worries of shaking or anything else, because those things are great. They have a huge footprint. Highly, highly recommend those if you're doing a lot of work underneath fifth wheels. Never trust their leveling systems. They are not meant for it, and if you want to push that luck, just don't. So again, this is kind of like my everyday bag for calls. Whoop. So in here I have my inspection stuff, you know, propane tester, you know, meter, screwdrivers, USB testers. Very, very common that USB plugs, even in brand new units, don't work. This is also able to put a load on them, which is, I would honestly say 20% of USB plugs fail. Good quality error gauge. And then, you know, pull this out. Then I just have a couple other, you know, quick grab items, some scrapers, you know, some screwdrivers, and a couple other things that, like I said, I would use for most jobs. Not every job, but for the most part, that probably covers me for 90% of inspections and service work. Over here you can see, I have 2 different welding gases. I have 100% and then a mix for MIG welding, you know, mild steel, and then the 100% for aluminum. So this little device here is what inspectors use to test the wiring on a trailer, so you don't actually have to hook up your personal truck or the customer's truck. So, you know, you can plug straight into here. It's got a battery inside, and you can control turn signals, side lights, brake lights, and test the brakes. So you can, you know, load test those, which is great because you don't have to get everything or a truck back to a vehicle, because a lot of times inspections are in the middle of, you know, backyards or just places to where it's not super easy to get a truck. Plus, that mitigates liability of you messing up a yard or, you know, possibly hitting the unit backing up to it. So again, that's a great tool for inspectors and technicians. Moving along, these are, you know, more my renovation toolboxes. I don't have to pull these out because I don't do a lot of like water damage repair or that on the road. So a lot of my woodworking tools are all utilized for, you know, the renovation aspect, not service work, but on an occasion. So I have like all of my, you know, Craig things as far as screws for, you know, pocket holes, different hardwares. But that's kind of what this whole kit is, you know, just wood-based hardwares, screws, and stuff for the Craig jig. Getting down into this box, it's where I have, you know, my brad nailer. This comes out quite a bit for, the brad nailer comes out quite a bit for twin tech repairs, because you have to pull the slide faces off, and majority of slides are brad nailed in. So when you pull those off, you got to pull all the old brad nails out and replace the motors, and then that goes back on. And you know, that's been great, instead of having to, you know, hand finish nail them back up, or, you know, lug around an air compressor. As you can tell, I'm very heavily invested within the Milwaukee system. It was I have M12 and M18 tools, DeWalt, Ryobi. There's plenty of other brands. This was just the batteries that I decided to pick, and you build off of that. I also have, you know, the M18 router, you know, some saws. So up top, I still have more Milwaukee boxes up on the tops. So over here, I have everything for the grinder. So the die grinder, the discs, the flap discs, everything for grinding, cleaning up is in one of them. The other one, I have all of my hole saws and reciprocating saw blades and that type of stuff. And then over here is more hardware. So this is where more of like my heavy bolts are. I have a lot of screws and everything else over there. This is, you know, axle suspension hardware, bigger bolts and whatnot. But that about covers the back of the truck. I also do have some, can't see what I'm doing here. I also do have some big clamps up there. We do build tabletops, so, you know, a couple bigger clamps just to hold everything together while we're either pocket screwing it, gluing it, or whatever process we're going through with that. But a couple big old clamps. Coming around to this side, so this back compartment is majority, you know, the chemicals and glues and whatnot. You know, so I got dielectric grease, you know, spray adhesives, you know, lubricants, brake cleaners, you know, fuel treatments, all of that. Down here, you know, obviously just some welding gloves. These are all of our oil sampling kits. So when we do inspections and we're doing a sample, these are the kits that we use. So we pull a sample, it's usually about 2 ounces, and send it off. It takes, you know, anywhere from 3 to 5 days to get that back. And we can do that on any type of oil, any type of coolant, you know, for generators or motors. So we got a couple, you know, welding accessories, you know, a BAL cable slide repair kit. Those are the oil test kits. Those are the pumps. I have one for oil and one for coolant. Over here, this is, you know, just a digital caliper for measurings. This is kind of like my hodgepodge. You know, it's not exactly organized well, but it's kind of like my throw all for random stuff that I don't really quite have a place for. So I have, you know, like a bleeder hose. These are great. You put them onto the calipers, crack it loose, and then you can go pump. This goes, one side goes into a container with brake fluid, so it doesn't allow air to come back up and in. And it's a way to bleed brakes by yourself without having to use a pump. My oil extractor I can also use for brakes. Very rarely do I do it. This way has worked well for me, and I just keep doing that. I have extra capacitors for air conditioners, you know, common parts, you know, propane regulators. I have some, you know, hot water, you know, components and whatnot in there just as general grab stuff, because it's not uncommon for that. I had, you know, one of those is actually from an Atwood hot water tank. It's used. The hot water tank, they forgot to winterize, blew the tank up, but all the propane side of it is still perfectly good, so I just ripped that off of the tank and threw it in the truck for a spare. Coming to this is kind of the cabinet where, you know, I grab majority of my stuff from. So here is majority of my electrical connectors. So I have shrink tube, you know, bigger, you know, split bolts for some stuff, you know, some terminals, you know, different connectors and whatnot, some, you know, different test leads for the multimeter, you know, drill bits, This is where majority of these are where all my charge batteries go. So when I discharge batteries, those actually stay in the bag, so I know what's good and what's bad as far as charged. A lot of my Milwaukee, you know, M12 stuff, so I got an impact drill, another impact, die grinder, battery jump. This thing is amazing. That's just the GB70, and that is big enough to start this truck, which has a 6.7 Cummins, with both batteries disconnected. So it's an impressive jump box for how tiny it is. So highly, highly recommend it. Another thing, you know, just more, you know, my flashlights and, you know, headlamps and whatnot, tape measure, kind of sits there, just some rags to wipe my hands, gloves, and then my fuel cap for the fuel tank. But that's about it. I got a couple other random things that, you know, go into the cab of the truck, you know, rain jacket, some spare clothes, you know, hand wipes, that type of thing. But that is, for the most part, what I carry. If I do have certain jobs, there are times to where, you know, this will change a bit, and I'm constantly maneuvering, changing things up depending on what I'm doing mostly. You know, down in Florida, it's completely different, you know, usually jobs than we are when we're back up in Ohio. We do a lot more ACs down south than up north, obviously. So with that, you know, the cargo top carrier comes off, because when I do ACs, let me flip this down so you can see. When we do ACs, I actually load them up on the top because I can walk on this. And almost every, you know, trailer slash fifth wheel, I can just pick the AC up. I use that piece of foam that I lay on, put it on the RV roof, and then I pick it up and just set it on that on the RV roof. So it works way better than trying to, you know, go up a ladder or anything like that. So it really has been great, you know, doing ACs that way. There's only been a handful of like the taller Class A's that I haven't been able to do that with, and then at that point I need, you know, help with somebody else, and we'll either you know, rope it and, you know, pull it up or whatnot. But that's not super common. But thanks for hanging out with me, guys. If you have any questions, feel free, leave them down in the comments. If you want to know more about any particular thing that you saw, parts I carry, tools I carry, feel free, yeah, leave it down in the comments, and I will get back to those as soon as I can. Please like and subscribe. I'm gonna try to get out one video a week. We'll see how that goes. And that's about it. So see you guys out there, and safe travels.